Marcus had always considered himself a man of routines, which is to say he had perfected the art of staring at blinking control panels for hours without spontaneously combusting from boredom. He could navigate a freighter through a meteor shower while sipping synth coffee, calibrate a plasma cannon with one hand, and grumble about the cafeteria's repeated attempts to serve protein slop with the other. That morning, however, as his ship drifted lazily past the outer rim of Sector 9, routine was the first casualty. The sky lit up like a pyrotechnics convention when a starship, sleek and impossibly bright, emerged from a fold in the quantum stream. Marcus rubbed his eyes, sure he had hallucinated the ship, or that the ship was somehow a hallucination brought on by the cafeteria's breakfast sludge. Either way, the comm speaker crackled, and a voice resonated through the hull, smooth and commanding. "Marcus of Earth Command," it said, "step aboard or the galaxy burns." He squinted. "Wait, did you just threaten me, or is this some kind of weird invitation?" The voice chuckled, but it wasn't the kind of chuckle that made you feel safe. It had layers, like it could dissolve entire fleets and still pause to sip tea. The doors hissed open, and Marcus found himself facing a woman who looked human in every essential way except for the long, graceful ears that extended from her temples, brushing the air like living antennas. Her eyes gleamed with something between amusement and the threat of obliteration. "I am Queen Lyris," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 star systems. "And you, soldier, have a task that will determine the fate of more lives than you can imagine." Marcus raised one hand. "So, Tuesday then?" His humor was more a nervous reflex than a genuine quip, but he couldn't help himself. Lyris's ears twitched just slightly, and Marcus took it as a good sign. Maybe she appreciated bad jokes, or maybe she was about to vaporize him with one twitch. Either way, he was leaning toward optimism. She outlined the mission with an elegant precision that made Marcus feel like a toddler trying to assemble a warp engine blindfolded. He was to retrieve an artifact from the Zarian Belt, a place so notoriously unstable that even veteran pilots had a reputation for spontaneously becoming space debris. The artifact, she said, held power that rival factions would kill to possess. Marcus, already sweating, imagined the artifact as some kind of cosmic snow globe, gleaming innocently while wars raged in its orbit. "I don't even know if I like snow globes," Marcus muttered. Lyris's eyes narrowed, but there was a twitch in her ear that suggested she might have been suppressing a laugh. "This is not a vacation," she said. "If you fail—" I know," Marcus interrupted. "Galaxy burns, got it. I have a schedule now: breakfast, panic, heroism, maybe a nap if things go well." He could see the hint of an incredulous smile form at the corner of her mouth. It was a small victory. They moved to the ship's docking bay, and Marcus noticed her attention to detail. She inspected the starship's hull, frowned at the comm panel, and muttered about energy fluctuations in a way that made him feel like his entire career was being measured against a cosmic ruler. "You might want to recalibrate the ion stabilizers," she said, ears flicking with emphasis. Marcus grinned. "I might want to recalibrate my coffee first, then we can talk about ion stabilizers." Her ears twitched again, and this time he thought he saw amusement in her eyes. Perhaps this mission wouldn't be entirely lethal. Perhaps. The journey to the Zarian Belt was a series of calculated chaos. Asteroids floated like drunken dancers across the void, their surfaces etched with scars of ancient collisions. Marcus piloted the scout vessel through the belt with a mix of skill, panic, and sarcastic commentary. "Oh look," he said as a rock the size of a small moon careened past, "another day in paradise. We should really do this more often." Lyris's voice came over the calm and precise, yet with a teasing undertone. "Paradise is not the word I would use." "Suit yourself," he replied. "I'm calling it paradise, for morale." As they maneuvered deeper into the belt, sensors lit up with warnings of rival ships and rogue AI drones. Marcus dodged and weaved, muttering jokes to keep the adrenaline from consuming him entirely. "Hey, little drone," he said, blasting a missile past a metallic menace. "Your mother called," she said, "get a job." Lyris didn't respond, but the twitching of her ears was becoming an almost rhythmic pattern, like a silent laugh. Marcus took it as encouragement, or maybe she was about to scold him. Either way, the banter was a lifeline. Finally, after hours of navigating the treacherous maze, Marcus glimpsed the artifact. It hovered within a magnetic containment field, gleaming like liquid starlight. His heart thudded in sync with the ship's pulse engines, and he could almost hear Lyris's voice in his head. "If you fall, the galaxy will burn," Marcus swallowed. "Noted," he muttered. "Let's try to avoid that today, shall we?" As he prepared to secure the artifact, a rogue drone spiraled toward the containment field, firing lasers that made the walls sing with sparks. Marcus dodged, countered, and made a move so reckless it might have been genius if it hadn't been terrifying. "Hey Lyris, think I got this?" he yelled over the comm. Her reply was a soft, almost imperceptible chuckle. "You might, soldier, you just might." And for the first time since she appeared, Marcus felt a strange kind of reassurance. The galaxy might be burning on some timeline, but for this moment, he and the Queen were dancing on the edge of chaos, trading wits and surviving. And if nothing else, he thought, at least the coffee would be good once he got back. Marcus had barely taken a breath after securing the artifact before the comms crackled again, and Lyris's voice slid smoothly into the cabin like a laser beam with attitude. "You didn't think it would be that simple, did you?" she asked, ears tilting sharply, the subtle movement betraying her amusement. "Well," Marcus said, adjusting his flight gloves, "I thought it would be simple if you ignored the exploding rocks, rival factions, and rogue AI drones. So yes, simple in a very relative sense." He could almost hear her raising a perfectly arched brow. The artifact, a small crystalline device that pulsed with internal energy like a captured heartbeat, rested in the containment cradle, and Marcus felt the weight of responsibility pressing against his ribcage. Not literal weight, of course. The ship's graviton stabilizers kept him floating, but metaphorical weight, the kind that makes a person swear at inanimate objects for no reason. "I swear," he muttered, "if this thing fries my coffee replicator, there will be consequences." Lyris's response was dry. "The galaxy burning might be more consequential." Marcus leaned back in his pilot chair, trying to plot a course out of the Zarian belt without dying, laughing, or giving the rogue drones another reason to hunt him. The sensors lit up with clusters of hostile signatures moving like predators circling prey. "Oh look," he said, "more bad guys. I was starting to think the universe was on vacation." "You're not going to make it through the belt on jokes alone," Lyris replied, and he imagined her ears twitching as if to punctuate her words. "Follow the graviton currents and think ahead. Every asteroid you dodge changes the field for the next one." Marcus tapped the navigation console like a pianist playing jazz on a graviton piano. Sure, I'll just waltz through asteroid choreography while cosmic missiles play percussion." "Easy." He engaged the scout vessel's thrusters with a finesse he didn't feel, dodging jagged rocks that spun lazily through the void. One drone, metallic and menacing, launched a barrage of plasma bolts that painted the dark sky with searing streaks of color. Marcus swore under his breath and fired a countermissile, watching it intercept the volley with a satisfying explosion. "Boom, and that's why I'm the hero," he muttered. Lyris didn't answer immediately, which Marcus took as approval, or at least as an absence of scolding. "Do you ever sleep?" she asked finally, a hint of teasing threading her tone. "Or is your fuel strictly sarcasm?" Marcus grinned, dodging another spinning asteroid. "Sarcasm is my primary system, coffee's backup." The artifact began to pulse more urgently, and a holographic map projected from its core, forming a lattice of light that wove through the asteroid field. Marcus frowned. "It's alive, isn't it?" "Sentient enough to kill you if you make a wrong move," Lyra said, "and it enjoys testing humans." "Fantastic, my favorite hobby." Marcus threaded the vessel through a narrow canyon of tumbling rocks, the artifact's glow reflecting on his sweat-dampened brow. He shot a glance at the comm panel and half-joked, "Hey, I thought sentient things liked hugs, not laser evasions." Lyris's laugh was soft but genuine, a sound that ricocheted through his mind with surprising warmth. "Only if you survive first," she said, ears twitching in a way that reminded him absurdly of a cat judging a mouse. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Marcus had long stopped checking clocks, focusing instead on the pulse of the artifact and the shifting hazards of the belt. Each maneuver demanded split-second decisions, but he found that humor, even forced, kept his nerves from unraveling. "Hey, little artifact," he muttered aloud as he dodged another asteroid. "You know I didn't sign up to be your space chauffeur, right?" A sudden jolt threw him against the console. One of the rogue drones had latched onto the ship's hull with electromagnetic clamps, sparks flying. Marcus yelped, swearing loudly enough to entertain any nearby cosmic beings, real or imagined. Well, that's new. Hello, little metal menace. You like electricity because I'm full of it. Lyris's voice came calm, yet amused. Aim for the joints. Your blaster can't penetrate the core armor, but the servos are vulnerable. Marcus nodded, even though she couldn't see it, and fired at the drone's appendages. Sparks danced, the drone spun wildly, and it eventually detached with a pop and a hiss. Marcus exhaled dramatically. Victory. And I didn't even need a cape. The artifact, seemingly satisfied, pulsed once, twice, then projected a path forward through the densest section of the asteroid field. Marcus leaned over the controls. Okay, buddy. Lead the way and don't make me crash. We're having coffee later, remember. Lyris's ears twitched in amusement. Coffee will be the least of your concerns if you don't follow that path exactly. They weaved through the final stretch, asteroids like floating hammers and spinning saws, drones darting between them like insects with lethal intent. Marcus's hands moved over the controls with fluid precision, his jokes continuing as a nervous lifeline. I swear, universe, he muttered as a rogue missile narrowly missed the hull. If I survive this, I am charging you rent for the stress. Finally, they emerged from the belt, battered but intact, the artifact humming in quiet triumph. Marcus floated in zero gravity, the tension loosening slightly as the void stretched infinitely around them. Well, he said, letting himself relax just a fraction, I think we made it. Universe owes me a drink. Lyris's voice, now closer as her holographic projection solidified, carried warmth and a hint of teasing. You did make it. And yes, you will have a drink, but don't think your jokes saved the galaxy alone. Marcus grinned, trying to appear casual even as adrenaline still coursed through him. Yeah, I had a lot of help. Namely, the Queen of Long Ears, who apparently likes my terrible humor. A soft laugh floated across the comms, and Marcus realized that even in the vast emptiness of space, the rhythm of companionship could make a galaxy of chaos feel just a little smaller. The artifact's glow seemed to pulse in agreement, and for the first time in a long while, Marcus allowed himself a small, ironic smile. Surviving the Zarian belt was one thing, but delivering this thing back to Queen Lyris, while dodging mercenaries, AI assassins, and zero-gravity nausea, was shaping up to be the real adventure. And he intended to do it with style, wit, and just enough sarcasm to keep the Queen mildly amused, and perhaps the galaxy unburned. Marcus drifted through the command corridors of the Queen's flagship, the artifact secured in its containment cradle and humming softly, like a living pulse reminding him that failure was still a very real possibility. The journey back from the Zarian belt had been merciless, a symphony of rogue drones, collapsing asteroids, and mercenary ships, but somehow against odds that could have justified a nervous breakdown, he had survived. Barely. And somewhere along the way, he had discovered that sarcastic commentary could be as vital as a blaster in keeping one's sanity intact. Marcus, Lyris said from the bridge, her presence now fully physical, her long ears brushing lightly against the console as she leaned over it, eyes fixed on the approaching sector. The final stage will not tolerate hesitation. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Good to know. I was planning to pause for a nap. She tilted her head, one ear flicking in amusement. Naps are a luxury for mortals who have not just saved an asteroid belt, but also stolen a sentient device from multiple factions simultaneously. Marcus smirked, trying to hide the fatigue gnawing at his joints. Well, I guess I'm not exactly mortal then, more like mortal adjacent. Their route cut through a war-torn sector where gravity wells shifted unpredictably, and debris from collapsed stations floated like deadly confetti. Rival factions had picked up their trail, and Marcus knew the final confrontation would test every skill he had developed, or maybe invented out of sheer desperation, during the mission. The artifact pulsed rhythmically, as if aware of the stakes, and he muttered, "Don't think you're intimidating me, yet." Suddenly, the sensors lit up. A fleet of pirate cruisers emerged from a collapsed nebula, guns trained on them with precision. Marcus's fingers danced over the controls as missiles fired and energy shields flared. "Oh look," he said, voice dripping with faux cheer, "the welcoming committee, how thoughtful." Lyris stood behind him, calm and composed, ears twitching in subtle amusement. "Remember what I said about loyalty and trust." Marcus grinned, narrowly dodging a volley of plasma. "Yep. Trust in my reflexes, loyalty to my coffee supply, and maybe you. A slight smile tugged at the corners of Lyris's mouth, a rare softness in her otherwise implacable demeanor. Focus, soldier, she said, though the warmth in her voice was impossible to ignore. The battle unfolded in chaotic harmony. Marcus weaved through floating wreckage, exploiting gravitational eddies and magnetic anomalies to outmaneuver superior firepower. He quipped relentlessly, though now each joke was sharpened with a subtle wisdom. Humor could disarm fear, even in the vacuum of space. "Hey, you shiny metal idiots," he shouted over the comms, blasting the nearest drone. "Why don't you try a nice cup of antimatter tea? Might calm your aggression." Miraculously, they pushed past the fleet, entering the safe zone near the Queen's command station. Marcus exhaled, realizing for the first time how much he had relied on both his wits and Lyris's guidance. The Queen's presence had been a constant, her long ears twitching to subtle changes in the ship's environment, and her insights had saved him more than once. He had learned to see strategy in patterns he once considered chaos and courage where he had only recognized panic. As they docked, the artifact in place and the ship secured, Marcus felt a shift within himself. The mission had transformed him, not just as a soldier, but as someone who could carry the weight of choices affecting entire star systems. He was still sarcastic, still exhausted, but he had discovered resilience and a quiet confidence that could not be erased by plasma fire or rogue AI. Lyris approached, her presence commanding yet unthreatening. "You have delivered the artifact, Marcus," she said, ears flicking forward in acknowledgement. "The galaxy remains intact for now. You have earned my respect." Marcus chuckled, letting himself relax for the first time in days. "I'll accept respect, coffee, or maybe both, preferably both." The Queen's lips curved in a subtle smile, and for a moment, the tension of countless light years seemed to ease. "You understand now that the galaxy's survival sometimes hinges on choices made under duress," she said, "and on the courage to act despite fear." Marcus nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate in every exhausted fiber of his being. "I think I do, and I think sarcasm helps." She laughed softly, a sound that echoed lightly through the command chamber. "Even heroes require humor," she admitted. "Perhaps that is what makes them human, and perhaps even when facing impossible odds, it is the human element that saves the day." Marcus smiled, feeling a rare warmth in the void. He had survived asteroids, rogue drones, rival fleets, and the crushing weight of interstellar responsibility. But he had also learned to trust, to act decisively, and to find humor even in the darkest corners of space. The artifact pulsed one final time before settling into a steady glow. Marcus exhaled, letting the fatigue wash over him in gentle waves, knowing the crisis had ended. Lyris stepped back, the hum of the command station filling the silence. And for the first time, Marcus saw her not just as a queen of formidable power, but as someone who understood the delicate balance between authority and empathy. "You have changed," she said, her ears tilting ever so slightly, the faintest acknowledgement of amusement still dancing in her eyes. "And the galaxy is better for it." Marcus laughed softly, a deep, unburdened sound that carried relief, exhaustion, and triumph all at once.